Hello. Hi. Hello, stream. It's me. It is I, Distracted Elf. We're here once again to plot and plan and scheme as we do, GM style. Today's episode is another one of those episodes where it's like, well, the players didn't do what I thought they were going to do last week, so we still have all of that banked up, still ready to go. All the stuff we've been working on the last 2 weeks is still set aside or ready to be used, which, that's good. That's good. I'm into it. It was a little bit of a quiet episode last week. We did some really great sort of integrations of some of the Vodian culture reveals and language reveals, small ones anyway. With Haverford during the first half, our Bothan, our mustachioed Bothan historian. And then the second half was the ship. We finally got to talk about Omni Brogbow's MC-18 and the repairing thereof, as well as some tidbits of character information about what our dear characters get up to during their free time, a little bit. So all of that to say, it was a pretty good episode. We were missing our bounty hunter again, so the crew once more was sort of loath to pursue our current major goal, which is to go and talk to, or go in and what do you call it? Interact with our fog wardens stuff with Panakata and the fog wardens. They're a little reluctant. We have, however, clarified that bounty hunter or no, next week I think they're gonna do it. You know what I mean? That we can't hold off forever. Things will happen if we do. So they were saying to me one way or another we're going next week. So this week I think is the week that's gonna happen. So that's good. It's important to communicate with your players. Let them know what the deal is and where you kind of want them to go or what you need from them for the story to move. So yeah, it comes down to next week we're planning to go in that direction with the story. So the thing that I'm currently mulling over when it comes to what I want to do broad strokes wise moving forward is I need to get Yutiko more involved. I need to get Yutiko seeming like an adversary. And I think I'm going to do that through the Sunderer. They are going to discover that the Sunderer, is out there or what have you, and they want the resources from the crashed Imperial Star Destroyer as well. There are a couple of avenues where I can make Yutiko look really awful. Now that the players have some NPCs they care about, it's easy for me to shake down our historian, for example. He seems like the kind of guy you could easily rough up for some, protection money or something. That's a line I could take, which I'm tempted to do. That would also maybe lead to them knowing more about the Vodian stuff. But Usopp, has employees, and those employees are not, his scavenging crew is not necessarily as close-lipped as he is. So I think it's going to be a bit of a race to get to the Sunderer. At least that's sort of my plan. Yeah, it's that's the thought anyway. And then I can put them up against some like choices about who they're willing to shoot at and who they're not, and what teams they're on, and so on, so on, so on. You know what I mean? Like really, really just try and bring everything together in like what are the player characters gonna do. The other thing is that I'm keeping my eye on the player obligations. Omni did roll their obligation a little while ago, and I have some thoughts about, Republic issues, or at least like Mon Calamari Authority issues once they get off planet. We have Kryno's obligation of like the hunt they never finished, so I need to get more information from Gabe as a player to inform me as to like what the backstory on that is, because I don't want to write it for them. It's like a player backstory thing, but it may give me a very powerful nemesis to present if I need to motivate them in some way. If I need motivation from Kryno to present their like hunt they never managed to finish obligation. I feel like Mabel, Andrew's character, has been doing like the most solid engagement with their obligation in terms of it's very simple, fix the broken Imperial droids, put money towards the resources for those droids, like foster that community as much as possible. I feel like that's been pretty good, and we got to see a glimpse of that last episode, with some like details about where like Mabel stays and that kind of stuff, which was cool. And last but not least, Zyle's obligation of being a fugitive from the Chiss Ascendancy. We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to work on my New Zealander accent and bring some like Chiss agent to bear against them. I think that would be something that would be worth doing. Hunting them down. There's a lot of drama in that. We're in a bit of a position this week where our planning and our plotting and our trajectory, we've done a lot to put that in motion in the way that we want. We have, in terms of specifics to speak about this week, I am short. You know what I mean? I will say that the Discord has been, as usual, just like blowing up a storm about cool ideas and, connecting things and naming stuff. And I mean, like, gosh, every week I look at that. Every week I look at the Discord and I'm feel proud. And a lot of people have really engaged with the Vodian stuff in general. The Vodian, past civilization, and like what the deal is with them. So that's been fun to look at, because it is just like a thing we made up together, and that's awesome. Have I statted up some Fog Wardens? I have some Fog Wardens, but not fully realized, just in the general sense. I feel like the best way to do stats for this game, unless you're statting up a particular individual, the way that I've found it best when you're doing either minions, or I guess rivals probably need individual stats as well, but when you're doing like non-specific combat encounters, is just to use the dice pool. Do you think they would have X or Y dice? Keep in mind that you've given them X or Y dice. You know what I mean? Obviously I'd love to hear them, Bud Prince. I always want to hear unique NPC ideas. But yeah, so I found like sort of not winging it, but sort of like not relying too heavily on a stat card, like entirely filled out character sheets or stat cards, has worked out pretty well for my NPC stuff so far. It may not be the case for forever, but honestly, I'm really hoping they don't shoot at the Fog Wardens. And if they do, I'm going to try and non-lethally dissuade them in the other direction. That is the hope. I mean, it's not, it's not guaranteed, obviously. Sometimes things don't go the way you want them to. And as a GM, you got to be ready to adapt to whatever it is that does happen. But I love our setup from a couple weeks ago. The, ambush point, the conversation, discussion to be had, over a distance, sort of obfuscated, and then see, what the reactions are of the characters or the wardens to what the characters do. And then sort of, either become more friendly or less as the conversation goes on. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a test is definitely if they start fighting, there will be a fight, right? But I don't want to open up on them because then it looks, if you know what I mean, because then I don't want to open up on the players because then it looks like that's the way that I'm pushing it, you know what I mean? And that's not the plan. I hope to dissuade that particular course of action, but I'm going to be ready for it if it happens. There are a couple of other things that they haven't explored particularly that we could, talk about in terms of side quests, like the rest of that Imperial base. There's still level 2 and 3 of that base that they haven't looked at. But I somehow don't think that they will make it back there. Or if they do, that it will be because somebody is missing, or it'll be a side venture, as it were. Yeah. Let me just get us situated here. Sorry, I'm opening a couple of tabs, looking around for some stuff that I had put somewhere else. Okay. Okay. So, if we go over to our wonderful large set of NPCs and inputs, the Imperial base could help further scavenge the Star Destroyer. Yeah, I mean it could. It definitely, definitely we could do something like that. But the idea was that the data chip that they recovered for Bausak had that information on it. Stuff like access codes or, information that would from an Imperial source that would lead them in the right direction. You know what I mean? So we've kind of already tapped that in terms of what is expected of the characters. So that's something that I don't want to double up on it, so to speak. But will our little Jawa friend collaborate with our player characters is the other question when it comes to that kind of stuff. They have the info, but the player characters don't necessarily have the info. They opened the data chip, but I don't know if they made a copy or saved it anywhere or what have you, and it's something I can ask them. Of course, their answer will be, of course we did. Of course we saved it. But I don't remember them doing so. There's also the question of ground vehicles. This came up as a possibility, especially because Xyle has piloting skills when it comes to ground vehicles or space vehicles. They have enough money at the moment, the money they got from Haverford. They have enough money to potentially buy some kind of traversal vehicle, a speeder or something like that. These things are available to them. In fact, I should look at what the price point is for those things in particular. Give me 1 second. I gotta get my book. Okay. Oh, hitting my keyboard with a giant book. That's not usually very helpful. All right, let's see. So, I've ruined the green screen. Green screen repair. Okay, good. Let's take an old flip through here. Find ourselves our vehicles. Ah, the smell of RPG books. I feel like RPG books all have the same smell. That, like, ink and paper smell that just makes me think of playing D&D 3.5. Okay. So air speeders, small civilian air speeders, for transporting cargo or passengers, have a cost rarity of 10,000 credits and 3. So an air speeder would be like theoretically available, but an air speeder is also like flying. They fly. You know what I mean? So that's slightly different than what I'm looking for. Land speeders. Here we go, land speeders. The personal, commercial, and military vehicles of choice for most sentients. Land speeders are produced in countless millions by hundreds of manufacturers. Wonderful. So this includes things like speeder bikes. So like the scout speeders, for example, from like Return of the Jedi, are speeder bikes. Military speeder bikes. A speeder bike would cost 3,000 credits and have a rarity of 4. But a speeder bike also has a forward-mounted light repeating blaster. So, it actually has like a gun on it. Yeah, they're like swoops, right? Swoops are slightly different. They have a different like maximum altitude. Because a swoop bike can get like 350 meters in the air. A speeder bike can only get about 25. The thing about these particular transports, or these particular vehicles, is that they're only a one passenger. Like, the vehicle has an encumbrance capacity of 5, and the crew is 1 pilot. So I think encumbrance capacity would dictate how many people you get on it. Oh, so it says crew and passenger capacity is 1. So there's crew 1 pilot, passenger capacity 1. I don't know if that means 1 person or 2 people, but I mean, we've seen 2 people on a speeder bike, so I'm going to assume 2, because we've seen, you know, like two people riding like a motorcycle. Swoops are more civilian, like Harleys. Yeah, they are. That is the other. They're also more expensive, according to the book. A Mobcat Flare S swoop is worth double the amount of an Aratak 74Z military speeder bike. But the real fun is the land speeders. So you can get a land speeder, an X-34 land speeder, which is like the Luke Skywalker style land speeder from A New Hope. Okay, it has a crew of 1 pilot and a passenger capacity of 1 too. So that, yeah, it means 2 people. But yeah, it's only a 2 people vehicle. Unfortunate. There is the Trast A5 heavy speeder truck. Yeah, the encumbrance capacity for the land speeder is 15 rather than the 5 for the speeder bikes, as Rayford Inn is saying. Can hold like 5-ish people, but only has seats for 2. Yeah, because the encumbrance capacity is higher, I would assume. A speeder truck is worth 10,000 credits apparently, and has a rarity of 2. Speeder trucks also have a transport capacity of 25. This is the kind of thing that you would use if you were Utico, like going through with like a team. You know what I mean? Like a Utico scanner squad or what have you. Utico like condenser squad would use like a heavy speeder truck, something like that. Something more all-terrain would make sense for a vote. I agree with you, but wheeled vehicles are a little more unfamiliar. I mean, there's personnel carriers, any kind of personnel carrier. One of the things that is in here for wheeled vehicles, which is like, describes it as many smaller or poor fringe worlds can't afford military or law enforcement vehicles with expensive repulsor lift technology or construct the heavy walkers utilized by the Imperial Army. Instead, many of these worlds supply their military or self-defense forces with transports utilizing older but reliable wheeled or treaded propulsion. These personnel carriers are usually extremely simple, which does have the advantage of making them more reliable. So they're actually cheap. The party could buy a personnel carrier if they wanted to. A personnel carrier costs 3,000 credits. It has no weapons. It has some customizable hardpoints. It has an encumbrance capacity of 100. Like, without the passengers. And then two crew points, a pilot and a co-pilot. But it is like a ground vehicle, a treaded vehicle, or a wheeled vehicle. I think that's probably within the capacity of the players to do. There's also an all-terrain personal transport walker, but that costs 30,000 credits and is like a one-pilot walker with a gun on it, which is not particularly helpful to our players, but could be something that we consider for our NPCs. The old ATPT. Does the party necessarily need to buy the vehicle? Not necessarily, but I know that they were talking about it last session. They were talking about like acquiring a vehicle. So I'm like looking into what vehicles they might be able to acquire, and it's seeming like the personnel carrier kind of like move would be the best. Sort of like a treaded, I would say like tank treaded vehicle for Vode almost. That can move across like a variety of high density plant high density landscape. Like a rent-a-truck service, or maybe doing a quest instead. Yeah, I mean, we could definitely do that. Yeah, the problem with the speeder erratic buffoonery, because you're saying like that would be a speeder for moving across any kind of terrain. You're right. The problem with speeders is if you want to get any more than like 2 people on one, it costs, like 10,000 credits, like double, triple what a wheeled vehicle will cost. Their repulsor technology is expensive. I definitely think we could come up with a rent-a-truck service, and the idea of doing like do this thing for me and I'll sell you my old beater is definitely something we could do as well. We have a couple of NPCs that would do stuff like that, I think. We would just have to advertise that they wanted to do that. You know what I mean? Or that they could do that. That would be easy. Hell, I bet you Garlaka's got some kind of vehicle they never use. Our Wookiee friend, who sits at the the bar, drinking all day. I bet you she has some personal transport that she hasn't used in like a decade. But offering them a vehicle that puts them in debt to Utico. Yeah, I mean, my problem with like I put you in debt to Utico is that they won't go for it. So far, everything that I have put forward that was like, well, this is like a Utico thing, they've been like, nah. You know what I mean? Like the player response to you can do this, but then you'll owe Utico has been like, I would rather die most of the time. You know what I mean? Like it has been pretty aggressive. So I don't think they go for it. If it came with strings attached, I don't think we would go for it. Another option is a union service or quest. Yes, Well, we have Mongum set up from a couple of sessions ago as a possible task giver, you know. Um and he he never actually gave a task, but he's there. So we could definitely use him for a union service request. Raven asks, would Yutiko have special personnel transports with attachments to clear the foliage? You're thinking like chainsaw cattle catcher type of deal. Because that sounds awesome. Get them, deploy the buzzsaws and just like goblin your way through the jungle, you know? Yeah, I think getting Xyle involved in some swoop racing on sure, or flamethrowers, yeah, another good option. Getting Xyle involved in some swoop racing on Vode would be cool. And I think Mongum would probably be the way to do that. Because like Yutiko has made this sort of like a quote unquote company competition when it used to be the free old do what you like swoop race or something. You know what I mean? Maybe we could have Xyle enter and try and win for Mongum, and thus perhaps get a discount on purchasing of some kind of vehicle. I feel like that might be worth doing. That has the threads of something interesting. The problem with it is like I worry when I do like one thing for one person because I don't want the other three to just like have nothing to do. But Omni, yeah, Omni would be super interested in the bikes, that's for sure. So I'll get to keep the speeder if they win. Yeah. I mean, swoop bikes are pretty sweet. Or speeders if we went the speeder particular. I guess the two kinds of bikes would be used. But I mean, the thing about a speeder bike is it's not big enough for the party to use together. It would be useful for like one or two of them, but not for getting around. You know what I mean? It's kind of a thing. So it's like I would rather trade it in for something that everybody can use. But that I guess we can make that up to our party. You know what I mean? We can say like you can keep the speeder and then see if they want to trade it in or not. That's something for the party to decide. Not necessarily something for me to decide. I just try and think all of these things through as closely as I can. Yeah. So I think a vehicle is definitely an option. I'm going to put this book away so I'm not reading it distractedly while I try and speak to everybody. I think a vehicle is definitely an option. I think we'll definitely put a speeder bike situation or a swoop situation like on the table. I'm definitely willing to do because they've mentioned that they're interested in it, and because Xyle has the skill to do so and has not had the opportunity to do so, you know, which always sucks when you make a character that like knows how to do something but can't. That kind of thing. So, you know, providing an opportunity for that. I've already said that the MC-18 was large enough that they could fit like a small land vehicle in it, so they wouldn't have to leave behind whatever it is that they like acquired in that time. That was my concession to them. You know, that there's enough space for a bike or a small vehicle in the storage hold of the MC-18. You freaking know that Omni is going to try and customize the shit out of anything that we get. Armor, weapons, vehicles, whatever. You know it. Passenger Land Speeder, Force and Destiny. Okay, I didn't look at Force and Destiny. I was looking at Edge of the Empire. Let's take a look at our other options. Because we do have the Force and Destiny book as well. Wow! I know. Absolutely wonderful. 254, eh? 254, eh? Paper. Okay. So, there is indeed the passenger land speeder here, which is the go-to personal transport vehicle throughout the galaxy, producing countless styles. They range from sporty two-seater hot rods to staid commuter vehicles to the opulent VIP land speeders used to ferry around Imperial officials. This is just like a car. This is just like, it's a car. You know? It's a car. It's as variable as saying it's a car. You know, that scene in Attack of the Clones where Anakin's like, you know, I just couldn't find a speeder that I liked. You know how it is. Sorry, master. Yeah, and definitely we could do some kind of like, yeah, like land speeder rally race. That sounds pretty sick. And we can talk about like that the land speeders are all different and like manufactured differently, and they're like, some have like a 2-person crew, some have like 4, some are like you know, fit for the environment. Some of them look like they came off the, like, you know, the racing tracks of somewhere else, you know. Look at old land speeder stock car. Yeah, exactly. Stock car racing. See, it's Vodian NASCAR. but you can bring whatever land speeder you want as long as it's a land speeder. And yeah, and then it's like, well, what are the rules? Can you like sabotage other people? Can you like, how dirty dealing do you want to go? You know, are you gonna throw a thermal detonator out your window at the passing car? Like, do they do that to each other? That kind of stuff, you know what I mean? It's just like it's very like we get to think about like that kind of thing. And we'll need other racers, right? Surely we'll need other racers. Death Race Voting Edition, yeah. You know, surely we will need other crews of racers. Thermal detonators cost more than a new car, we found out. Yeah, so the passenger land speeder is a rarity 3, 3,500 credits. The thermal detonator costs you 10,000 credits and is rarity 10 and illegal. Actually, they might be rarity 8, but they're illegal and 10,000 credits a piece. In terms of throwing explosives, thermal detonators are very expensive. Which is an interesting piece of trivia. I'm just going to deviate on the trivia section here. Because Han Solo's bounty, like Han Solo's, like the amount of money that Han Solo owed to Jabba the Hutt was 10,000 credits. I think, base. I remember reading that somewhere. So the thermal detonator that Leia shows up with and threatens to blow everyone up with is worth as much as the amount of money that Han needed to pay back to... Anyway, I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. I just realized that was a thing. Yeah, thermal detonators are what you use when you want something to unexist. But you know what I mean. I'm just... Yeah. I wonder if there's any interesting wheeled or tracked vehicles in this book. Oh, they have the Galatech 48 roller, the like weird rolling motorcycle that General Grievous uses in here. Fantastic. They also have the ground car, which is just a car. It is as ubiquitous and primitive as a car can be. That's what it says. It's worth 1,500 credits, and it's a car that drives. His kind of scum, I believe, on original posters, the line. This bounty hunter is my kind of scum. I mean, of course they don't on original. That's the consolation price if they lose. Yeah, shitty ground car. So I definitely think the passenger land speeders thing will be great, and we can have this like garage scene. You know, I'm already thinking about it like some fucking Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift garage scene. You know what I mean? With like a bunch of land speeders and their various like crew members fixing it up before the race. Mongum can like walk them through or something, you know, just like deviate slightly if they want to do it into like some weird side quest territory. Just take them way off track. but the whole thing would take like one episode. You know what I mean? That's my thought. Is the whole thing would take like one episode, unless they really wanted to get into like the details of it, in which case it might take a little more. But it is definitely a good idea for putting aside in case we are missing party members, I feel like. Just a side quest to speed up overland travel. Yeah, it's like Chocobo Racing Final Fantasy, exactly. I think we'll present them with the option to do that this coming session. Things that I definitely think we'll need to come up with are like some land speeders, you know what I mean? Like descriptions of some like various land speeders. And some, like, enemy, quote-unquote, enemy pilots, you know, enemy racers. Those are the kinds of things that we will need. Yeah, I can see Kryno leaning out the passenger side and shooting out an engine. Yeah, exactly. He's the kind of scummy bounty hunter guy who would do that. Oh! Speaking of Kryno, the other thing we have to figure out, team... and I think I'll probably just ask Gabe when the session starts, but the other thing we have to figure out, in case Gabe doesn't have any ideas, is what have Kryno and Keld been doing for the past, like, 2 days? You know what I mean? For the past little while, what have Kryno and Keld been up to? You know? Why did Keld take Kryno out to do some, like, private bounty hunter practice? Like, what's the deal? Is this the something to do with the guilds? Is it like a initiation? You know, like what? Like that's something that we'll need to be able to answer, because it would be great to have them, like, even though they haven't been around the last 2 sessions, it'd be great to have like some flashback as to, like, what they're doing. You know what I mean? And my plan, obviously, when it comes to people's characters, is always to ask them first. But I like to have some options, like sort of ready to roll. My thought is that Keld told him about a bounty, and then wanted to supervise his hunt of this particular bounty or something like that. Some kind of like judgment, or something like that. You know, some kind of, yeah, I got a target for you, kid. You know, like, take this guy out. I'm gonna watch, but like, if you fuck up, well, I mean, I'll be here to note that you fucked it up as well. I definitely think we'll go to the button. Yeah, we'll have this bounty take place on the space station. If Kryno's into it. Which would be super cool. There's a rollable table, some random bounties on the Discord if you need a random target. Hell yeah, I know there is, Bud Prince. Perfect for this kind of thing. Absolutely perfect. Let's grab our rollable bounty table. Scroll on back on up the rollable table section. See if we can find. I don't know if it was put into the rollable tables section. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, yes, perfect. Okay, so let's make ourselves a little handout for it, because we might as well do so on a rollable table section. We're gonna add a handout. We're gonna have bounty targets, rollable section. And then we can grab the stuff from the Discord that Bud Prince wrote. And I'm pretty sure these bounty targets have art, don't they, Bud Prince? Because there was a time where you were doing a lot of bounty target related art, I remember. Oh, formatting. So, we have a bunch of bounty targets. Here we go. It's a rollable table of bounty targets from the wonderful Bud Prince. Chodrundo, Gawakron, Hast Alu, Chorma K, the Dazzler, H4T1 Hati, East Cartus, Kiln Ube, and Dila Omila. And they've all got various professions as well. And I'm sure there are in the NPC section, I'm pretty sure each of these has a bigger write-up that our wonderful Bud Prince did with the art. But I would have to scroll back through a little bit and find them and put them in there. I haven't put all of them in the right places. Wiki's probably easier. Yeah, you're probably right. I should use our wiki. That would be much more simple. So, because we have a wiki, I can click wiki and then I can go to the NPC category and it shows me NPCs and I can look up these guys by name. So Chodrundo, for example, is this handsome fellow. Look at him. Look at him. Looking surly in a mugshot. So our first target could be this guy, for example. And you can just search the names, yeah. Because all the NPCs that get made, whether canon or not, quote unquote, whether I use them or not in the show, get put onto the wiki so that they are easy to find. Which is super, super cool. And chat and the Discord folks help me a lot with the organization. We got Gawakron. Look at the tiny sign. Such a big boy. Tiny sign. What else? Hastelo. I just want to show them all off now. Look at this. Look at this. These wonderful green lit sort of holographic mug shots. It's so good. Chorma K. A Rhodian wearing a masquerade mask. Rhodian lady. Very cool. Very cool. Hati. This rowboat with a coat. And they all have, like I said, backstories too, which is wonderful because whichever one we roll, I can look up on the Discord, or look up on the wiki and find them. I could go through them all, but just you get the point. That's an easy way to do our bounty targets. The other thing is we can just pick them too. We don't even have to roll, but it's fun to roll dice. It's mostly the point of games that we play, to roll dice, Okay, so that gives us a good avenue for what Kryno is doing. Obviously, that may fall to the wayside if I say "Hey, Kryno, what have you been doing with Keld?" And then Kryno Gabe has some big idea about it, because I never want to overshadow what a player wants for themselves. You know what I mean? I feel like that's fairly important. You don't want to be nah, you weren't doing that. You were doing this other thing that I said you're going to do. When you don't have to, obviously. Yeah. So, the other thing that has been fairly frequently talked about in the Discord is Vodian force use and like Vodian bioengineering and stuff. There's been a whole bunch of that kind of talk in the chat. And what I will say is, like, I love the idea that the Vodian stuff, the Vodian nerdery that is coming out of there, and a lot of it is like dear to my heart and feels like it should be canon, obviously, but some of it may never get revealed or resolved, and I don't want anybody to feel like I'm not using their thing, or I don't want to use their thing, because we made the decision, I remember I asked this last week, that they probably won't ever meet a live Vodian. They might meet hallucinations of live Vodians, or, like force ghost projections or visions of, but they'll probably never meet a Vodian, because it defeats the purpose of the, like, mystery. If we have, sort of like living ones. It's stuff for Haverford to ramble about. Yeah, exactly. One of the things I really did like that came out of the Discord this week, really, really did like, was the naming, the Vodian naming convention came out this week, I think, as like a thing that was being talked about. I'm scrolling up so far to see if I can find, because there's so much conversation about stuff. Yeah, it's in the rollable table section. I was looking in the ideas section. That's what it was. The idea of like Vodian names being long and descriptive rather than just a name. So like Rowan Mist came up with several that they think are pretty cool. So like stuff like the name is something like one born in the glow-cap redshroom waters of the East Marsh, or like one born within the shade of the three green spored parasols, or one from the tall yellow webcap mushroom with the blue-green spores, or like one from the slippery cap beneath the shadow of Driftfang. Like things like that as like names. And I love the idea that that's probably what's on the plinths, something that's on the like the because I described the statues as having like placards on the bases, and I imagine it's probably the names written on the bases of like whoever it was that the statue is of, and that might be a way for Haverford to start to bring some of the language together, because like all the names start with like one of, or like, you know what I mean, like there's sort of this like rhythm to the naming system. It's like one from the, or one born under, or one that kind of thing. Like it all starts very similar, and it's like one from the descriptive place underneath the glow of the descriptive thing, or you know what I mean, like, so the symbols are all going to be like, if it works like a like a language, the way that languages do is that a lot of those are going to look very similar, right? Like the syntax is going to be similar for like set up towards proper noun, set up towards description, like that kind of stuff. Like the sentence structure is going to be like similar. And of course it all goes bottom to top, because we said that's how the language writes, from bottom to top, like a growing plant. So more just like random stuff for Haverford to ramble about, which, I mean, always good to have something to ramble about, because I definitely think that Xyle is going to attach themselves to Haverford in a way that is like, I want to know more. You know what I mean? I must know more. So that's something to consider. Having random stuff to talk about in terms of the history is very, very cool, very, very useful. But that some of it might never come up. I love the idea of using the Force to cultivate growable gear. Having living organisms as part of your equipment, like armor that protects you because it is alive, and can do so, or like you know, a sword you gotta feed and water, you know, that kind of stuff. It's like, it's very cool. This does mean that the Ascendancy can now threaten Haverford to get exile. It's true. Having a Chiss Ascendancy agent show up in Haverford's place and, like, gun to the head Haverford while Xyle is there being like, you're going to do what I tell you, would be a great scene if their obligation roll comes up. Definitely tempting. Definitely going to put that one on the list, you know. Very, very good point. That agent would end up in compost, though. I mean, I don't know. Chiss agents are not exactly pushovers. That's for sure. But yeah, so I love the Vodian stuff. I hope at some point to stat the Vodian species. If only to offer it up as an option to those of you who play this game in other games. You know what I mean? Like, my wildest dream is that people care about the shit I'm writing here in other games of Star Wars: Edge of the Empire. You know, if you wanna use a Vodian. So I may do that in my free time. Come up with like a little stat block for them, or a starting stat block. Seems like something I could definitely do, you know. It's not outside the area of the impossible. But yeah, our situation this week, GM prep wise, is that we're pretty prepped. We're ready. You know what I mean? Like, we're good to go forward, I think, mostly. We've had some deviations the last couple of episodes where it's like, well, I got to do like some bonus stuff, or I got to do some bonus stuff here because like things are not going in the direction that I expected them to go. But I also couldn't push them in the direction that I expected to go because I was missing a player, and it was very reasonable to try and like belay, you know what I mean, the actual like adventure path, quote unquote. And that led to all of this stuff about the Vodians, you know what I mean? That led to us talking about all this stuff because we went to the ruins instead. So it's a blessing. It's a blessing when your players take you to a place you weren't expecting to go quite yet. It is a benefit. It is a good thing. Since Haverford's hypotheses turned out to be A, correct, and B, provable, it means the academic world is going to take them seriously, right? Scholars are going to swarm the planet. I mean, the wonderful thing about being discredited is that you probably have a difficult time getting the attention of the people who might at one point be able to, you know, like offer you that credit. And hey, friends, welcome, Raiders. You're coming in hot right on the end, I feel like, here. So unfortunate for that, but welcome. Hi. Yay, Raiders. Thanks for hosting us. But yeah, so I'm feeling like we're in a pretty solid position for this week's GM stream. I think we're in a very, how can I put this? We're in a great place because we've done so much prep previously that hasn't been used, right? And this is a thing that comes up as a GM all the time, where you're like, oh man, I'm going to plot out this dungeon, and they're going to get through it, and then I'm going to have like this other thing, and then like the mansion above the dungeon, and then after they get out of the mansion, there'll be like demons, and then they have to go to a castle, and in the first session, they get like a quarter of the way through the dungeon that you planned at the beginning, you know? And you've got this like big backlog of stuff. You already know what's gonna, like, how it's gonna progress or what's gonna happen. The only thing different for us is the details. And we have the details for next week because we've done the Panakata setup. But once we do the meeting with the Fog Wardens, the stuff to do with the Sunderer, we'll have to do a little bit more, like draw a shitty map kind of set up and plan some things a little more specifically, which I think will be fun. But we don't know that they're gonna head there right now, and we already have quite a bit of track laid, and that's the idea of the weekly GM stream, is that we make sure that the track remains ahead of the players, that there is some thought into what is going to happen. There's some thought into like what next week is going to look like, and it's a great time to organize your thoughts about the session tomorrow, right? Like, I love to do the prep right before the session. You know what I mean? Just because, and I say right before, it's a day before, but like, just because then it is so much clearer in my mind going into the actual game what we planned. If this stream was like 3 days, it's like on Monday or on Tuesday or something, it would feel like a bit of a bigger gap. But I like having everything kind of close together and moving towards what we need to plot out for that week. But that said, I think we're good. I think we're in a good place. So I'm going to call it here for today, and we'll reconvene next week. Obviously, we've got the game tomorrow, so don't forget to check that out. 1 p.m. PST, same as this GM stream. Let me organize the shoutouts properly. So, first off, Star Wars Desperate Gamble stream tomorrow at 1 p.m. PST. Definitely check it out. It's going to be super fun. Every week we do this stream, the GM stream for Star Wars Desperate Gamble on Thursdays at 1 p.m. PST. We'll be back on next week. And pretty soon we're going to have some announcements about when the D&D stuff is coming back for the Monday streams for like Roll20 stuff. I don't know if I can officially announce the dates yet, so I can't tell you, but pretty soon there will be some Candlekeep Mysteries stuff for the D&D stream on the Mondays, with mostly the same crew, but some new additions whom are, whom are cool. Other stuff. There's me. I'm Distracted Elf. You can find me at twitch.tv/DistractedElf or on Twitter at DistractedElf. The thing that I'm doing mostly at the moment, and actually it's like I'm kind of tempted to do more of it right now. I'm very engaged in it. Is writing streams for 5e content. Currently, we're working on a bunch of Warlock spells and magic items for related to the patrons that we wrote the last time we released something. So we wrote a book called The Distracted Elf's Guide to Otherworldly Patrons that we released on the DM's Guild, and now we're writing magic items and spells to go with those patrons that Warlocks could take. And I will tell you that the project of writing spell syntax is very interesting. Trying to figure out how spells are formatted so that they are the proper D&D level of like rules legalese. It's fun. It's fun trying to like write in the appropriate format the idea that you are having. You're like, it should do this, but like, how do I write that? So we've been doing those on stream and it's super fun. We're down we've done like 9 of 48 spells or something like that. Anyway, that's a big old ramble. The other thing that you should also be aware of course, is Roll20 itself. You can sign up for free for Roll20 at roll20.net. And let me tell you, one of the greatest features of a virtual tabletop is that you do not have to invite your annoying roommate Steve, who always makes Monty Python jokes at the table because you're using the living room table space. Steve can sit out because you can play with anyone anywhere on the internet, and Steve doesn't have to know. So sign up for roll20.net. You don't have to invite your annoying roommate Steve. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for Desperate Gamble. Yeah. See you then. Bye, nerds.